We good? Hello, ladies, and Greg Gutfeld, who told me he's watching while he grills meats upstate, so hi, Greg. It's so great to see so many faces. In New York, faces are still, people aren't, masks all the time. On the flight here, I had to wear a mask the whole time. I went to the bathroom, there was no soap in the bathroom. How does that make sense? I don't know. Okay, so the topic that I was assigned to speak about to you guys was personal stories and experiences throughout my career. And I wasn't entirely sure what to do with that. First of all, because it's going to be streamed on the internet, and I don't know what's appropriate and what isn't. And also because I'm thinking why would you guys care, right? So I thought about it a little bit more, and even though I'm just, a 32-year-old married lady now, thank you. It can happen to anyone, trust me. I remember what it's like to be you guys, to be in college or to be in high school and to be totally ambitious and to have all these dreams, but also be so terrified. How is this going to happen? Because it just seems so uncertain and so impossible to make any of these things come true. The weird thing is, I did make these things happen for myself to a T, to the point where it's almost creepy. 11 years ago, I remember watching Red Eye at my then boyfriend's brother's house in LA, and I said, I would be great on that show. And his brother said to me, you are a cashier at Boston Market. And I was. I was. And so anybody who would bet on the fact that I would work for Greg Gutfeld in a few years would be making a statistically ridiculous bet and should not do that with their money. I was a broke fast food cashier from Detroit with no connections, so I don't blame him for that perfectly reasonable response. But with all that in mind and how I approach this, I thought I would try to share some lessons that I learned in the 11 to 15 years or so since I've been in the position that you guys are, and that might be useful no matter what it is that you want to do with your career, and share through the story of my journey, which I hate that I use it. I'm sorry. I've been watching so much Bachelor, and they call it a journey. It's no, it's a reality TV show, and you guys are, you're never going to get married, and if you do, you'll be divorced in a year, but whatever. Okay. From Boston Market cashier to this, and focusing on a few things that I learned that are really, I found helpful, which are creating opportunities instead of waiting for opportunities, and not being afraid to go against the grain, think for yourself, and be totally authentic, okay? Do any of you guys in college, you have post-college plans, okay? Do you want to hear what mine were? It's a doozy. I had an internship at Fox News in LA that it was going to last 2.5 months, and I had a housing stipend through the Leadership Institute that lasted 2 months. And I'd been accepted into Columbia Journalism School in the fall, so this was my plan. I was going to do the internship and use the housing subsidy for 2 months to rent a room I found on Craigslist and sleep on an air mattress, close enough to work that I could bike, because I didn't have car money. And then the final 2 weeks of the internship, I was going to move in with my college boyfriend who had gotten a job in LA, and he was biking distance from the bureau. And then after those 2 weeks, we would break up, and I would move to New York and go to Columbia. I'm sure whatever yours are, they're better than that. We planned to, live together for exactly 2 weeks ahead of a planned breakup, where I would leave immediately and move to the other side of the country. The relationship didn't work out. It had nothing to do, with that. But we're still great friends. Also, he's Cheens. Do you guys know Cheens? Any of you? My cat? Any of you? Thank you. So he's Cheens' dad, and he's actually taking care of Cheens right now in New York. So you can be friends after a breakup. Anyway. After I was enrolled in Columbia already, and it was my dream school. Since I was a little girl, it was my dream to go to Columbia Journalism School, and it's so hard to get in, and I got in. But less than a month before the start of classes, I decided there was no way in hell I'd ever be able to pay back an $80,000 loan, especially on an entry-level journalist salary. So even though everyone told me it was so stupid because it's Columbia, I unenrolled, okay? I decided to keep working at Boston Market and look for higher paying work as a waitress. And I found not one, but 2 waitressing jobs, not to brag. And this is where the whole creating opportunities thing comes in. Because at Fox News, I was hired as an intern at the Business Network, but I ran around trying to meet as many people as possible and to learn as many things as possible. I even at one point went into the radio office and asked the women working there if I could learn how to do that. And I remember they stared at me for a little bit and they said, nobody ever talks to us. But it worked out, not only because one of them, you know, she was still one of my best friends. She was at my small 30-person wedding in May. But they were able to get me a job at a radio station, internship at a radio station in Burbank that led to a job as a traffic reporter down the line. So I did this instead of going to Columbia, which everyone said was so stupid because it's Columbia, was the best decision I ever made, okay? And that's not to say it was easy. It was unbelievably hard. The boyfriend and I broke up. Again, shocking, you know, like just continuing to live with someone almost kind of non-consensually when you're supposed to be gone in 2 weeks doesn't automatically make you him your husband. But I had to move into an absolutely awful apartment in Long Beach, California, where I had no internet, no TV, certainly no lobby, and not to mention like the main entrance could easily be broken into using a credit card. For a while, my schedule was grueling. I'd get up at 4 a.m. every day to drive from this trash apartment to the Fullerton airport, where I report traffic from a helicopter till 9 a.m. Then I drive straight from there to my internship at KFI in Burbank, and then from there to my closing shift at a diner, back to Long Beach to the horrible apartment where I'd pass out on a yoga mat that I slept on because I was too broke to afford a bed. The nights I didn't work at the diner, I'd be out performing stand-up comedy. I eventually replaced my diner job with a job at California Pizza Kitchen, though, which was closer to home. I got to get a little more sleep. They were really hard times, you guys. Like, there are times so disgusting. Like, my mom was like, don't talk about that. But, you know, R.I.P., like, she'd be happy for me now. She never got to see it. I was still so poor when she died. Okay. So I will, like, for example, I will never forget, listen, I got scabies from the bus, the exact same week that my cat got fleas. No one should ever be that itchy. Okay. I lost my traffic reporting job because apparently giving correct instructions was important. Like, they were like, listen, you have a great voice for radio, but you're sending people into traffic. And I was like, eh. You do have a point. And I eventually lost my apartment, so I had nowhere to live, and I was forced to move in with the Colombian family of a guy that I was sort of seeing from the California Pizza Kitchen job, which was complete with many difficult conversations about how just because I lived at his family's house, that did not mean that we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I just needed a bed, okay. And Sheens came with me, which was nice. I was determined, though, to not give up, okay? One of the women from Fox News Radio helped me make a demo reel, and I drove all the way up the coast as far as Fresno, just dropping it off for different station managers, being like, hey, like, if there's no traffic involved, I could do a great job. And it didn't work. And just as I was ready to give up, I got a call from the Washington Times, who was starting this new venture called Times 24/7. It was basically like news aggregation. All I would be doing would be aggregating news. And they want to interview me as a potential hire. And this is going back to the creating opportunities thing. They had remembered me from an internship I did between my junior and senior year of college, where I didn't just do what was asked of me. I came in and would pitch my own story ideas every day. As a 20-year-old intern come in, I have this idea. And sometimes I got called stupid for my ideas because I was 20, but I also wound up with 7 front-page articles during my 10-week internship. So you can't be afraid to fail. And I know as women, sometimes you feel awkward, you feel like, the worst thing people can say is you're an idiot, and that is not terminal. So, like, you'll be okay. So I got the job, I found a room on Craigslist, and moved from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., all in 2 weeks. I could tell a lot of stories about the Craigslist house, but I want to leave time for questions too. And also, this is being recorded. But I stuck to my philosophy of creating opportunities instead of waiting for them. I continued to write even though it wasn't part of my job, including part of a fellowship I worked on outside of work. I walked into the radio studio in the building and said, hey, I have experience. I can't do your traffic, but I can do this. And I wound up with a segment on the radio show. And then the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform, I'm sure some of you might be familiar with that organization. I known him briefly in college. He saw me at a TV training that I'd also done in my spare time, as long as stand-up comedy. He said, you seem like a natural. I want to give you a job here. We'll train you for TV. We'll try to get you on TV. And it paid less than the job that I had already, but I took it anyway. And I hustled as much as I could, okay? Like, I did get offered some Fox appearances, and I did my absolute best. I was living in DC, but I'd get emails from producers at Fox. They'd say, hey, we want someone on set for this segment. Are you in New York? And I'd say yes, and then I would get on a megabus, so I was, and do the segment. And then I had a video that went kind of viral, and I was on the show, and then Greg Gutfeld noticed it. And that was my first red eye. As the same day I got hired at National Review for some of the videos and work I'd done at Campus Reform. So then 6 months after my mom died suddenly of a rare disease, and just 3 days after the man I thought I was gonna marry me broke up with me in front of my father at Coney Island. Oh, really? He lives with his mom now. He also stayed the entire day and hung out. So, but I signed a contract to become part of a new Fox News show, The Greg Gutfeld Show. By the way, I told Greg yesterday that I was going to give a speech about stories from my career, and he said, oh, so you're just going to talk about how great I am the whole time. Hi, Greg. He's watching, which is weird, but he's probably eating steak. So. But I do have to say, honestly, like, Greg is really great. Like, I was living in another rodent-infested trash hole when I met Greg. And I remember my first red eye, actually, and it was like my dream come true. I had to get ready in an apartment without hot water because it was out all the time. And the bathroom smelled like a wet dog because we didn't have dryers either. And there was towels hanging everywhere. And he just, you know, really continued to be such a great friend and mentor to me. So thank you, Greg. Thank you. See? And I've also been eating a lot of chocolate-covered snap peas for him lately, so he has to know I care. Those CNN sketches where I'm eating the cicadas, it's a chocolate-covered snap pea. I would rather eat a bug. So my path, if you haven't noticed, was, you know, unique. And, you know, I don't think that's a coincidence at all. Part of that, I think, is because in every single thing that I've ever done, I've made sure to always remain completely and authentically and totally myself, okay? And this isn't shade at all, but I'm obviously not the type of person you'll see on any news channel. And it's been 6 years, and I continue to not only be fired, but to, you know, advance and be completely supported by Fox News and Greg. Yeah, thank you. So I sometimes have young women reach out to me about, you know, television advice, and one of the things I say is always to be authentic, because that's how you set yourself apart, and that's how you get the audience to trust you. And you know, I was thinking about it more before I came here, and I realized that being authentic is crucial advice for any career, and also to be able to work hard. And I mean, and also for your life, because when I think about all the things I've been through, and trust me, that was just a little slice of it, I realized the only way that I was able to get through everything was because I really truly believed in everything I was doing, and that it was true to what I believed, and I wasn't just doing it to get somewhere. I was doing it because I believed in it, and it was completely authentic. It makes it, thank you. It makes it a lot easier to deal with hate. And it hasn't been easy, even in my personal life, right? And I'm sure some of you, all of you, probably have gone through this. Being authentic can be really tough, especially in this climate. Just this year, I actually had to end a friendship with my very best friend of 13 years because he could not treat me with respect due to the way that I voted. And I see a lot of head shaking, and that's awful. You're not the jerk, okay? And it's hard, but I've also found it so freeing because I don't have to pretend, I don't have to walk on eggshells anymore and say, oh, is this, and even with my husband, he'd come over and be like, I'll be like, don't say that because it might upset me or my husband. My husband is even more conservative, he's more conservative than I am. You guys probably like him even better. I felt so free that I didn't have to do that anymore. And again, it was more than about the stress of the fights. It's because I really, truly felt the things I would have to do to keep that friendship ran counter to my values. And doing anything that's not completely authentic, and my therapist told me this, highly recommend those if you don't have them. You get upset or guilt or shame or feelings that come from doing something counter to your values. So authenticity is important. And if you're always authentic, you can always rest in the assurance that no matter if you fail, no matter if people hate you, no matter, at least the experience is for a purpose, okay? Thank you. I also really wanted to give quite a bit of time for you guys to ask questions because we don't really get to hang out very often. So if we want to do questions now, if people have them, about anything. I don't know how this works. Like, I think people are going to run and they're going to wave at me. I'm like so incredibly painfully awkward. It's okay.
Over here.
See, right. I'm so bad at this.
To your right.
Okay, thank you.
What would you have done when you were younger?
What would I have done when I was younger? I would have worried a lot less about people making fun of me for being weird and obnoxious, because now I get paid for that, right? And I notice you're really young, and just don't worry about that kind of stuff, because it can feel like the world when you're in school. It really can, but I promise you it's not. I'm so bad at okay, it's all gonna be here. Okay, that's easy for me. I think there's a problem with my ears.
First of all, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Such a role model. I just wanted to ask you, you've obviously got this fiery personality. You're hilarious and intelligent. What are some tips for the young women here of how to be taken seriously in the political field while not compromising our values and our personalities?
Right. Well, part of that for me, to be honest, is ADD, ADHD. I don't, yeah, okay. I don't have you two. I don't have the option of thinking before I speak because it's already out there. And honestly, this is tough. It really is tough because especially as a woman, I think in general, if you're someone who's funny and you're someone who's a little wacky, people think that's, you're not intelligent, you're not smart. And as a woman, I'll be honest with you, it's even harder. You have to not be afraid to stand up for yourself. And it can be so, so scary. But I would say be honest, be direct with people. If you feel disrespected, say so. Because again, going back to authenticity, the worst thing that you can do is try to go around it and be like, oh, but this is who I am, but who I am might upset someone. You can't worry about that. Because at the end of the day, you're the person that has to spend the most time with you. And then people will respect you for that as well. Hello.
Hi, Kat. My name is Rachel Swinney. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Rachel.
So I did want to say real quick, I think I've watched you since I was in about middle school or maybe even younger.
Wow.
And I saw you and Greg up there, and you're both so funny and have such great personalities, and hopefully he doesn't think you guys have some similarities, and it's so great.
That's what my husband says.
It's true. So so I noticed that networking was a big part of how you got where you are today. And so I was wondering if you had any advice for when you were such a mover and shaker, what advice do you have when you're talking to these people around the office, networking, trying to make connections?
Totally. I will say that being fake because, this is an important person is so obvious. It's the most obvious thing in the entire world. And I think, again, going back to when I was an intern, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, but I approached it as, and I still approach everything as, no matter who you meet, there's something that you can learn from that person. And if you approach it with a genuine sense of wanting to learn, then people will want to help you. And if you just like, oh, I'm gonna go, and also don't get too drunk at happy hours, okay? I know you're a little young, but when you get older, like, interns do that. But if you know, and be willing to accept advice and criticism if it is, you know, honestly, if someone's trying to help.